Hi everybody, it's Mark Rushton of markrushton.com. It's Sunday, January 19th, 2020, and this is my monthly painting and music update. I publish this content a number of ways. First, I have a monthly email newsletter that you can opt in on my website, markrushton.com. Second, I publish it as a podcast with extra music. You can follow me on any major podcast service or app, because I've been podcasting for over 15 years. Just search the Ambient Rushton podcast, or go to ambient.libsyn.com. That's Libsyn. Libsyn, my podcasting provider, also publishes the podcast on YouTube. Third, it's published as a monthly blog post on my website, markrushton.com. Okay, on the post, on the website, and in the email newsletter, I show one of my paintings called Flowing Vista, which is 5 by 7 inches. It's an acrylic ink on synthetic paper painting. It's been mounted to a cradled wood panel, and it's inside a matte white wood frame. Now for the painting section. I've brought a new selection of paintings to the Leopold Gallery in Kansas City. In the description of this podcast, you can click through a link to see what they have in stock. My paintings start at $149 for a 5 by 7 like Flowing Vista. If you're new to collecting art, $149 is a fantastic price for original pieces. This style is what I often call an ambient landscape or abstract landscape painting. I'm in the state of Iowa and in the Midwestern United States, and when I go for drives on the interstates, highways, and back roads, this is how I interpret what I've seen. What is synthetic paper? It's one of the many variations of Tyvek, which is a product by DuPont. It's also known as spun-bonded olefin. I've been painting on it since about 1992 and use a particular technique to bring out the grain of the fibers. Tyvek has many wonderful properties, including being archival, water-resistant, mold-resistant, and will not rot. In the past year, I've switched to using acrylic ink for my paintings, or a combination of acrylic ink and acrylic paint. The ink offers a faster drying time with excellent permanence and allows the painting to be displayed open in a frame without the need for glazing. Although if you want to protect the painting with plexiglass or glass barrier, that's okay. The synthetic paper is mounted to either a cradled wood panel or hardboard. I use a starch-based adhesive called Yes Paste. It can be carefully unmounted in the future if desired. Some recent paintings I've done are not on synthetic paper, but are done on a wood panel with smooth gesso as a surface. While I love working with the synthetic paper, I also like working on smooth gesso panels. Because I use standard sizes, the mounted paintings can be easily transferred to different types or colors of frames. All you got to do is open the back, pop it out, put it in another frame. It's super easy. But beyond all that, I think the paintings I produce are very unique. There's almost nobody using this type of synthetic paper, certainly no painters that I've seen in my research of artists and galleries. And I've been honing my craft on it for nearly 30 years to get where I am today. So if you like my paintings, now is the time to buy. In 2020 and perhaps beyond, I plan to focus on larger sizes, 18 by 24 and above, which takes longer for me to finish, and the prices are significantly higher. On the music side, in the past year, I've been using my paintings or details of them as imagery for my music. My recent Mark Rushton ambient single called Curation, which was released on January 15th, 2020, uses the painting Muddy Hilltop, which as of January 2020 is at the Leopold Gallery in Kansas City. Over time, especially as we've entered the dominance of the streaming area in the past few years, I've been kind of back and forth on whether to release singles or albums. As 2019 progressed, I decided to switch to releasing singles every few weeks. Why singles? Well, I make each track individually, like paintings, so why not present them individually? The problem with an album is that tracks can get lost, or they don't get discovered for a long time. And sure, groups of tracks can be cobbled together as an album, and I'll probably do that for those who wish to buy or consume them that way, but they can also be easily assembled as playlists. And even though I'm old and I grew up in the vinyl era, I also grew up in the cassette mixtape era, so to me, playlists are really nothing more than an updated version of giving a friend a cassette of your favorite tracks. So anyway, Curation, which you've been hearing, is an 18-minute pulsating ambient track that's based on recordings I made several years ago that also formed the basis of earlier releases like Feather Ridge. And 18 minutes for a single is a bit ridiculous, but sometimes when I'm working, I like a track to just keep going and going. If you have a Spotify account, you should be following me there. As of January 19, 2020, I have not a huge number of followers, 181, and 1,851 monthly listeners. That's up a bit recently because I got some tracks into some ambient playlists. If you follow me on Spotify or whichever service you use, then you'll likely be informed of new releases. I plan to have new singles out every 2 or 3 weeks. Spotify has an excellent playlist that's updated every Friday called Release Radar, and I never miss it. It's custom for every listener based on their follows and listening tastes. I found a lot of wonderful new music and old music and live versions of old music by checking out the Spotify Release Radar playlist every Friday. I don't just publish under the name of Mark Rushton. There's at least 11 or 12 pseudonyms I publish recordings under. Many of them are nature recordings, and I don't promote those, but they do very well on their own. Here's a partial list of names that I publish under. I have links in the description to Spotify, and all will be releasing singles every 2 or 3 weeks or so throughout 2020. The first is Ambient, which is a live improvisational ambient name. This used to be a group project for the past couple of years, it's just been me working solo. There's a lot of fantastic recordings out there, ambient, processed ambient, dub ambient, that sort of thing. Also published as Rushton. Those are short, beat-driven electronic instrumentals, kind of a down-tempo electronic. There's Chill Out Preservation Collective, which is beat-oriented instrumental electronic tracks by me, originally created in the early to mid-2000s. I have a ton of those. There's The Desperation of Drowning Man. Originally, that was an infusion of nature recordings and electronic ambient, but the second album was all rain sounds. I'll probably take this back to being a hybrid of ambient and nature sounds for future releases. And then I have 3 other band names that I publish under. It's ambient drift music. It's Meditative Drifting, My Love Underwater, and Calmer Feeling. I also make musical backing tracks and arrangements for spoken word artist Phil Kuhlenbeck. That stuff is like a combination of the William S. Burroughs cut-up technique and the slowed-down properties of chopped and screwed music, like with DJ Screw. Now you might be wondering, how do I have all this time to make paintings and then make music, edit sounds, and release it? Well, I don't do things like watch TV shows. I don't look at my phone every 5 seconds. I tend to create and edit sounds rather quickly because of technique and experience. And if I get tired of working on a painting, I might switch to editing audio. If I get tired of editing audio, then I go back to working on a painting. It's a good system. And I've got a lot of sounds saved up over the years. It's easy to release music and sounds these days. I've got my processes down. If I have a track I want to release as a single, it's already edited and titled. The artwork takes just a few minutes. I've timed it. I can do a single from selecting a finished piece of music to creating the artwork to uploading the track in about 20 minutes. So if I'm scheduling 6 singles, I can do that in about 2 hours. If I do that every 2 or 3 weeks, well, it doesn't take a lot of time. Anyway, that's pretty much it for January 2020. I'm Mark Rushton. My website is markrushton.com. Thanks for listening.